All stunts are performed by trained professionals. Do not attempt at home.
Okay, so first I'll start out on really describing what the problems were. So pretty much, I would be going and it would just randomly feel like I tapped the brakes or something, and it would feel like it just cut all power. So that was one thing. Then there was the throttle delay, which wasn't really a throttle delay. It was just pulling so much timing that it felt like a throttle delay. And then the third problem that was really getting on my nerves was it was a FTI 3200 stall converter, and for some reason it was only stalling at 2000. Like, that's what it was flashing at. And I mean, the night I put it in, it stalled at 3K. So I was really confused as to like why all of a sudden it didn't stall properly anymore. And turns out, if you go into torque management in the power enrichment tab, it was set to a maximum knock rate of 8, and pretty much any time I was on the throttle more than like 5%, it would just show a knock rate of 8 and it would cut my timing and fuel. So we bumped the power enrichment tab down to 0, and lo and behold, the first practice pull we did, it spun the 34s for the first 30 feet, and my tuner in the passenger seat just about fainted from the sheer power he was feeling. And when we finally got rid of the torque management, we went pretty conservative. We only added like 3 degrees of timing, since it was really is my daily driver and it's a 4-door truck. But I will say, when I hit like 5,000 RPMs, I can feel it just all of a sudden start pulling twice as hard, which I'm not really understanding why it's hitting so hard at 5,000 RPMs. And last night I did a pull, and the converter stalled at 2,800 instead of 2,000. So from it giving me less than stock timing to all of a sudden 3 degrees more than stock, it stalls at 2,800 now. So if I had a little bit more timing, it might stall a little bit higher. And one problem that started about 2.5-3 days ago was all of a sudden I would get this warning on my dash. It would say transmission hot. And, you know, I have the transcooler and everything, and it would do it as soon as I turned the key. Like, I wouldn't even have the truck crunk yet, and all of a sudden it would be saying transmission hot. So I got the HV tuners out. I get my tuner to look at the trans temp as it's saying transmission hot, and the trans temp is absolutely perfect. So the transmission temp sensor went out, and when the trans temp sensor starts false reading like that, it'll put the trans into pretty much a limp mode. Like, I had it in tow haul the other day where it's supposed to shift at 6K wide open throttle, and instead it shifted like right at 5K. So the problem is, to change that, I would have to drop the transmission again, which, as far as I know, in this entire truck's life, it's only ever been done once, and that was when I put the converter in. But really, the LS peak performance is going to be, say it shifts at 6K, 6,200. If right when it down or upshifts to the next gear, it should be like right at 4K. And right now the truck, when it downshifts, it's at like 3,600. So I'm going to try to bump the shift points up just enough to where it's right at 4K when it shifts. And then it should be even faster than it currently is. And I was going to make a headlight intake for the Cateye, but it is so much harder to do on a Cateye than it is on a GMC that I would literally have to somehow cut it just perfectly, because there's no real divider between the high beam and the low beam. It's just one big open spot. So that's probably going to take a little bit more engineering before I figure that one out. And I don't know if you can tell, but probably every like 2 to 3 months, I just randomly decide to take another turn or two out of the torsion keys. So, I mean, it's down probably like 5 or 6 turns since like 8 months ago.